Hello everyone, and welcome to my video tutorial over going through the Microsoft Office suite, specifically Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Access. In this lesson we will be using once again Microsoft Word 2016, and specifically we are going to be creating a research paper using all the different features of, or some of the features of Microsoft Word. Whether you're a student or a scholar and you're needing to do some research and composing all that into a paper, using Microsoft Word is one of the #1 tools in doing so. Now there are two popular documentation styles for research papers. That's MLA and APA. You've probably heard the acronyms. Now MLA stands for Modern Language Association of America, and APA stands for the American Psychological Association. The APA style is most commonly used to cite resources within the social sciences, whereas MLA is most commonly used to cite resources within the language arts, cultural studies, and other humanities. There are other styles that exist as well, like the Chicago or ASA, but MLA and APA are definitely the most used, and APA is probably more commonly used, where MLA is a very old format. Now, when you're creating a research paper, there are several activities that need to be performed when you're creating that paper, and like we'll be doing here in Microsoft Word. You need to create a header for each page of the research paper. You need to type the research paper text using citations. You need to create an alphabetical works cited page. You might even hear this called the references page. And you need to proofread and revise that research paper before submitting it. One of the other things that you should be comfortable with doing is making sure that you're adding footnotes to a document. So we'll look at some of those features here throughout this tutorial. If you're a little confused on the whole APA and MLA thing, Purdue OWL, or the Purdue Writing Lab, or Purdue Online Writing Lab, is a great source to start. This is the gold standard when it comes to being able to get those questions answered about APA and MLA. And they have some sample papers. They have very good references and examples to help guide you through things such as citations. So make sure you take a look at that. Now here's an example of an MLA paper. It's best to be able to see what we're talking about other than just hearing it. This is kind of a general sample of what MLA would look like. You can see here our page number and last name is used on every page. You can see that how we do our section headings. So if we're using headings, we are going to make sure that it looks like this, and most people are going to capitalize those. And you're going to, of course, have at the bottom your references, as always, needed for whichever research format you're using. You can see works cited here, and that is in alphabetical order, and there are certain ways that it's formatted here. One big distinction between MLA and APA, and it depends on your organization or institution as to what exactly which parts they want included, but with APA we use a running head, which is the title or part of the title of your paper. So that will be on every page as well. And you'll see that we use page numbers, but we don't include the author's name of the work. Another thing you'll notice too that's different with APA is that sometimes you'll include an author note, but what's more a distinction here with APA is that we include a high-level abstract of what your paper is going to include. But just a quick run of, hey, this paper is going to do this. You'll see that if we go down to the bottom here for our references page, or our works cited page, that it looks definitely different, but there are a lot of similarities as well. So it just depends on which format you're using. Thankfully, Microsoft Word is going to help us get through this and not have to do so much work. If you're watching this video and you've created research papers before, and you might jump in here and be like, why didn't I know this before? Because there's a references tab here that gives us a lot of tools to help us out. If you click on the references tab, you'll see that well, for my citations and bibliography, I want to use the APA style, or I want to use Chicago style, as I mentioned earlier. You can see there are several different types that we can use. Here's the MLA, and when you're doing work in here, it will format it for you. If I'm going to insert a citation and I do add new source, I'm going to put what type of source I'm using, and you can see if it's a book article or if it's an online article, website. Let's say I choose a website here. I put the author if I know it. I put the name of the web page. I'm going to put the URL, what date that I got to this information from that site. I hit OK. It's going to create that citation for me. And I can also create my bibliography, or have Microsoft Word create my bibliography for me, which style that I want. You can see here I've got bibliography. If I'm going to create that part, if I'm going to create my references or works cited, you can see how they kind of look here. This will be the title that'll be given, but we can insert a bibliography for our works cited section, and all of our citations will get added there as we create them. This saves us a ton of work. That's just a quick little overview of creating our research paper using Microsoft Word. It can save you a ton of time and not trying to do everything manually, having to rearrange things. Let Microsoft do the heavy loading for you. If I scroll down here into my paper, and let's say I'll just take a look at a paragraph. I'll just use this one here. Let's say I need to change the actual style, or I want to modify the style. And hopefully you recall how when we looked at styles prior to this in our previous video. Here in our Home tab, in our Styles group, we have different sections. And these styles are customizable. Let's say I'm going to use this heading style here. You can see once I click on it, it says in the style group, hey, you're using heading 1. Well, if I want to change what heading 1 looks like, all I really need to do is, now that I'm in here, I can just right click on heading 1. I can modify that. And let's say I want, wherever I'm using heading 1, I want that to be 14 point instead of 12 point, and I would like it to be underlined, even though we wouldn't do that for either APA or MLA. But let's say I was going to use MLA and I wanted to capitalize mine, then I could change that. I want to just, we don't usually use bold, but or italicize or underline, but a lot of times you will use bold. It just depends on which format and what your institution or organization prefers. But we can make those changes here so that the next time we include a heading, it's going to be pre-formatted for us and will be consistent in our paper. Now, another thing we might need to do is change the line spacing or paragraph spacing. And we can do that very easily up here. And if we want to change that, we're just going, let's say we click in here to this paragraph. And I can go up here and in my paragraph group on my Home tab, drop this down, and you can see I can add space before the paragraph I'm in, or if I need to remove space after a paragraph and bring it closer, I can select that. I can also do some line spacing options. I can make this line spacing to double space, or I can make it to single space. If I hit single space, you can see how that pulls together. I hit OK, now that is single spaced. And as always, if you do something that you didn't really want to do, go up here to our quick access toolbar and click the undo button. And you can see that there are a lot of different actions that are going to list there depending on how many changes you've done as to how far back you can go in undoing your changes. Or if you need to redo it, just click on the redo button. And you can see here, it tells me exactly what it's going to do. It's going to redo the line spacing change that I previously made. I mentioned earlier in the styles we're always going to use headers. So if we want to work with our header, if we don't already have one, or even if we need to modify it, we go here to the Insert tab, click on the Insert tab, and you'll see here in the header and footer group, there's what we're looking for. Here's the header, drop that down. If I want to select a style that's built in, there we go, I'll select one of those. If I have a current one, or if I need to just put one in, I'm going to click Edit Header. Now I can see what all is in my header and how to make changes. And let's say that I wanted to select a different style for my page number. If I click page number, I can then make drop down list here, and I can go through and say, okay, I want the current position. If I'm typing right here, that current position is where my flashing cursor is at. So if I go to current position and I put this style here, the accent bar 1, you see that it pops up right there. Now this is not acceptable in either APA or MLA, but maybe your institution wants that style, or maybe you're using Chicago style or some other style. And of course I can make that change by just deleting it. When you make that header change, it will appear throughout your document. If you need to, or when you need to insert a footer, you guessed it, you're going to go to the same area to do a footer. Here I'm already in the design for my header and footer tools. So if I wanted to look at the footer, I could drop this down. Here's my footer. It looks pretty similar to what I did in my header. So if I wanted to edit footer, I will be taken to the footer. Now I can go to my header footer group if I want, look at what styles or what I want to do, and work from it. If I want to put my name in there, if I want to put a footnote or just a message, let's say whatever institution that I'm using or I'm attending, then I can put their information down here at the bottom. Maybe they have intellectual rights to all work that's created, and that is a requirement that needs to be in there, is the name of that academic institution or where you work, and that has to, in case you're in a lab setting and they have all the intellectual rights, they want their information on there, then it's required that you put that there. Whenever you're done working in your headers and footers, simply go here in your design tab to the close group and close your header and footer, so you're now able to work in your document again. Once you have some work done, or if you're getting ready to start, you can see if I click in this paragraph here, it is, if I go to my paragraph group, it is aligned left. If you had some information you wanted to center, you could do that. Let's say we put another paragraph in between here. We'll scroll on down a little bit here. I'm gonna add another paragraph. This is some generic text, blah, blah, blah. And this is something that I wanted centered, such as with a heading or section heading. I can go up here to my paragraph group on my home tab, hit the center button. Now that text has been centered. You can do this with a whole paragraph as well. If I triple click and I want to center this, it can be centered. Obviously that looks pretty ugly, but there are some cases where you need to do that. This is not one of those cases. And here you can see there's a missing tab or missing indentation, which we already have preset. So we hit the tab button and we should be able to then take this section in 5 seconds. This, or 5 spaces. This is actually part of this paragraph, so I'm just going to make that correction and we'll bring that up. And there's going to be more than just that for fixing this. Little formatting that's already been put in here. There, it took. Now I mentioned 5 spaces earlier. It's actually a 1/2 inch. Sorry about that. The 5 spaces was a very old typing standard, so disregard that. It is a 1/2 inch. If you have your ruler brought up here in Microsoft Word, then you could see that, and that's the way how you stay consistent from paragraph to paragraph. I just mentioned using the ruler, and if you don't see the ruler, like you don't see it here, what you're going to do is you're going to display your ruler by going to the View tab up here on the ribbon. So click the View tab. Once the View tab is displayed, click the View Ruler checkbox to place that. So if we go to the Show group, click Ruler, check that box. Now you will see the ruler displayed, showing you the width of your page and the length. This is going to be referred to as the horizontal and vertical rulers that are on your screen. I also mentioned the first line indent for your paragraphs. To locate this, you will see those are located at the top here. If you need to change that, and you can hover over that, and I can click on it as well. But this is your first line indent. So when you go to a new line, it's going to indent to that point. So that's how you can change this by just clicking on it and dragging it. So that is where your paragraphs will be indented. The whole paragraph will be indented, and then your first word of every paragraph should be indented again, and you can just use your tab button for that. Another great feature here in Word is the autocorrect. Microsoft Word provides us an autocorrect feature that automatically corrects certain typings and spellings, capitulations, or even some grammatical errors as we type in our document. And you'll notice, you probably won't even notice it if you're not looking at the screen while you're typing. But if I put the words of and the next to each other without a space, it should correct it. This is just a sample of the, and as I hit the space bar, it automatically corrected and says, you know what, of and the are two separate words, it needs a space. So that is how, just an example of the autocorrect feature. You might find it necessary that there's something you're going to put in there that, let's say you use the wrong word, or you want to change what word you use, and you want to replace every of those. You can do a find and replace. You can use a shortcut Control F in your document. Once you use that shortcut, you'll see here we have the find dialog box, and here's the replace. If we click on replace, then we get a this dialog box says, okay, what do you want to find? What would you like to replace it with? So let's say I misspelled my name, because most people misspell their name. And let's just say I had it with 2 L's. And I want to replace that with the correct spelling. There, so I'm going to replace Roland with Rolland. And if I know I want this done everywhere, I can replace the all. So everywhere it finds an instance of my name that's spelled correctly, it'll put it correctly. If I just want to do one at a time, I can just do find the next, and then once it finds it and I find the one I want to change, I can do the replace at that point. So that's a really great thing. And you can actually add this into your dictionary as well. If they're like your name always comes up and it's got a blue line under it or red, then you can add that to the dictionary. I mentioned the bibliography style earlier. Now if we go to our references tab, and we see here we have our citations and bibliography grouping, and here's our style feature. Here's our bibliography style, in which we can choose whichever citation style we want used for our document. Currently I'm using APA, but if I wanted to switch to MLA, I could easily just change that, and I will notice changes as I'm going through. I'm going to use APA. Let's say that you're going to add your bibliography. Let's say I want to, even though this would be ridiculous with my document, but I'm here, I'm going to hit enter, and now I want to put my bibliography page. I can now just select which one I want, select my works cited, and here is where it will be created. You see it's already going to say works cited. Now I can, when I go and start putting things in my document, I can, once I create citations, they'll get added here. I can just update this and they will get added if it doesn't do it automatically for you. So let's see what that would look like, creating a citation and then adding a bibliography. So I'm writing my paper and I'm going to add a citation here. And let's just say this is my first one. So I'm going to add a new source, and I'm going to just say this, the author of this is someone new. And this is a website which I can choose a book if I would like. And let's just say the name of the page is Some New Rubbish. That's my web page I'm on. I got it in 2019 is when I visited it and retrieved this information. Let's say we use July and the day was the 4th, and the URL, we can just make one up, or we can use one, and I could use Google here, but I won't do. let's say I use the Cambridge Dictionary. So I put their URL in here, and I'm going to use that for the word rubbish. Once I hit OK, my citation is there per APA style. Now I've got several of these. Let's say I want to create my bibliography now. So any that I've created should automatically be here. We should only have one here, or two, because I have a previous one. If you already create a citation, I'll get to that here in just a second. I did create two. They're put here. They're in the correct formatting. And if I'm going to, let's say right here, I've already created, as I'm working, I'm creating my citations, which are creating my references. I can go and add it without typing it. I can go up here and insert a citation, and here are the ones that I've already created. So I could select, let's put Billy Bob here. It gets put in there for me. So once you create it, Word is going to save you so much time, because I didn't have to think about how does that citation work. What was the name of that author? How is it supposed to be here? I can just automatically put it in there by inserting the citation. So that's the bulk of when you're creating your research papers, is the formatting and make sure you use your citations, your in-text citations, and making sure that you are getting them listed correctly. But when Microsoft Word does it for us, we're so much happier for that. And just to demonstrate so you can see that I'm not just making something up, let's say we create another reference as we're typing along here, and I'm going to put one in right here, and I create the citation going up to the references group, citations and bibliography. I click insert citation, and I go through and I make that. Then it gets inserted. And this is foot anew, and once it's there, I'm going to go here to my works cited page, click in there. Here's a great feature, update citations and bibliography. I click that, and there is my book citation that I created. There's the reference I created. It automatically alphabetized it for me. I didn't have to go and do that and enter new lines and move things around. It saved me so much time by just being able to update the citations and bibliography. Thank you for putting that feature in so that I can save time and effort. I think as you're doing your research papers, you will find this a great feature in your life. Now let's say you need to insert a footnote to reference some information here. So if we just say I'm here at the includes here, and I want to include a footnote here in my references tab, I have a footnotes group, and I'm going to insert a footnote. And here you can see, let's say this information was retrieved from a survey using surveymonkey.com. There's my footnote. Now that I've created my footnote, it's there. Much quicker and easier than trying to use subscripts and superscripts and making sure you get your formatting correct. So doing a footnote is pretty simple. This is going to be when you first use it, it's going to use a subscripted one in two different places, where it's pointing to, and which is at the bottom of the page where the footnote is going to be positioned, and it's going to be in the document window where our insertion point was. So if I go back up there and find that location, there you can see my footnote. And you can see as you hover your mouse over it, it's going to give you the information that you've put into the footnote. Now I mentioned the word count in my previous video, but I want to bring that to your attention again here in this video, because that is usually very important to people when they're doing a research paper, is the word count. And if you go down to the bottom left corner, you will see that the word count indicator is located here on the status bar. And you can see this document currently has 1,832 words in the document. And if you want to get a little bit more information, you can just simply click on that, and that will show you a word count dialog box. Says, okay, here are how many pages you have. Here's how many words. Here are how many characters with and without spaces, how many paragraphs are in your paper, and how many lines you've included in your document. So some very good information to be able to reference. A really odd feature that we have that it's up to you if you want to use or not, I just want to make you aware of it, is hiding or showing the amount of white space on your page in between your pages. So you see if I move my mouse here, it says double click to hide this white space, which as you can see on my screen is gray in between my pages. If I double click that, it just looks like one seamless document with a line, like you were lining papers up, and that's how they would look. I don't usually use this feature. I like to know where the space is and where I'm jumping from page to page, so that is up to you whether you use that or not. I'm a big fan of page breaks, and here as I created this works cited page here, it's really ugly because it should be a page by itself, and that's just, that's the formatting that it should be anyway. So if you click, put your cursor there, make that your active position on the page, go up to the home tab, or I'm sorry, the insert tab again, go to the pages group under the insert tab, and just simply click, hey, I'd like to insert a page break. Click that there. Now this is on its own page. And as you index, you'll see here with me using APA formatting, I now have 11 pages down here rather than 10 as I did before. But putting your, separating your pages just makes a lot of sense for ease of reading by the user. Another feature I'd like to go over real quick is the open the navigation pane. If we go up here to the View tab, click on that, and then we check this checkbox here in the Show group for Navigation pane, this is going to give us some abilities to navigate around our document. And you can see I've got the pages here. Here's the headings. These are the different headings that we created in our document. Microsoft Word actually finds those and identifies those. So it knows if you want to jump to the limitations of these studies section, you click on it, you're going to get navigated right there. Let's say I don't want to scroll through things, but I think something was on page 9. And I scroll down, there's page 9. Hey, here's a references page. I'm there much quicker than just scrolling to get where I need to go. So there's lots of navigation tools here that can save you time as well. And doing research and using the headings in our navigation, that is definitely a way. As you're doing continued research, you can jump throughout your document. If you've got a 300-page document, jumping through the navigation with the headings will save you tons of time. Copying and pasting is a very elementary tool, but I want to go over it because it helps us a lot. Let's say I really like this information here and I don't want to have to repeat my style or use any of my other shortcuts, and I'm going to start another paragraph. So I highlight this and I hit Control C, or I can right click and select copy, or I can go up to the home group and the clipboard group under the home tab and select copy. Once I have that, let's say I'm going to add another section here, and I can just hit enter, hit Control V to paste, or I can hit the paste button up here in the clipboard group, or I can right click and select paste. And when I do this, I have options. So I want to keep the formatting that was used in my source that I got this from. So if you're using different documents and you're bringing it in, if it doesn't match the formatting that you're using in your current document, you might want to merge that or just paste it as text only. I'm in the same document, so I can just keep that. Now I'm going to say demographic variations. And enter, and I will start my paragraph. So I didn't have to worry that this is bold, Times New Roman 12. I already have it. So that's a little over copy and paste. And let's just say I come back and say, you know what, that was stupid. Why did I do that? I can select that information, and I can come up here and cut it, or I can hit delete. If I'm not going to use it again, I'm just going to hit the delete button. But you can hit cut, and let's say I decide, you know what, I want it after that paragraph instead. So Control V, it's there. So I use my clipboard again. It is a temporary holding place. It held the information there. Now I've used it. I'm good. If I decide I don't like that, you betcha I can select it and delete it, or I'll just undo and not worry about it. Another nice feature as you're working through a research paper is maybe you need to find a use of a different word that you're using too often. So if I go and let's say I've used the word communication way too many times, I can select that word, I can right click on it, and I have a synonyms option here, and you can see the pop out shows me different options so I can change the word rather than using communication. Maybe I wanted to say a statement or an announcement and not really communication, because this was an email message that we were talking about. I could select that and it will automatically be replaced in my document for me. I didn't have to go through and delete it, backspace, think of a word, then type it. I can just right click and let Microsoft Word do the work for me again. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, hey, we need to make sure we check our work before we submit it, and we can do that very easily. Microsoft does look at things for us, as here it's got the line, the blue liner here, so we know we can right click on that and see what it says. It doesn't really give us, it says, hey, this is just, you're using passive voice. Are you sure you want to do that? If I'm like, you know what, you're darn right, that's what I want to use, I'm going to ignore it. And there it goes away. But if we hit Control Home, this is a shortcut on your keyboard. You can use Control Home. That will take you to the top of a document. And this is using other tools in Microsoft as well. If you're in PowerPoint, hit Control Home, it'll take you to the top slide. Here we're going to the top of our word processing document. And I want to check my spelling and grammar all at once. Well, the way that I do that is go to my Review tab once again. And once we're there, they're in the proofing group because we're proofreading our paper. We're going to click the spelling and grammar button, and then it will go through our document, and anytime it doesn't like something, it's going to say, hey, are you sure this is right? And do you want to change it? And if I want to, let's say the name here, I'm using it, I want to ignore that. In any place that comes up, I'm going to ignore all. Here it says you're using passive voice, consider some revision. So I can either accept that or change it. If there's a word that's spelled wrong, it's going to give me some options. Is this correct? Did you mean to use this version instead? And we can select those and go through the whole document. So just make sure if it finds something you're like, oh yeah, that's what I meant to do, just simply click on the desired selection that Microsoft Word gives you. I know that was quite a bit of information as we were going through this lesson talking about how do I create a research paper using Microsoft Word. Well, hopefully you found some very helpful tips in saving you time and effort as you're completing your research papers. I hope you found this information helpful and that you continue to check out my videos to kind of bring some tips, tools, and great information using the Microsoft Office Suite tools. Thank you for following along. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.